And welcome everyone to my class on, we should be there, accessibility options for the Mac, iPad, and iPhone. And basically what I'm going to go over here, just some of my favorite things, actually some accessibility options that I use on a regular basis, to be honest. There's some of them that are quite obvious, change the text size and that kind of thing. And there's others, some hidden gems, including how you can even change the text size on the iPad and iPhone if for individual apps. We're also going to look at a couple of accessibility options for the Mac, you know, how you can make the cursor larger, smaller, nothing new there. But also what you can do now is change the color of the cursor and also reduce the transparency, which is what I do on my computer as well. So I just thought this would be kind of good. Someone actually suggested it for a meeting that I'm going to give in about a month, and I thought, you know what, there's some good stuff out there. And one of my favorites that I'm going to touch on is the Magnifier app. It used to be hidden on the iPhone, and they actually made it an app in iOS 15. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to be going over. But first, let's get this over with and talk a little bit, very little, about me. Basically, I'm Dan Wassink, owner, trainer, everything, Dan's Tutorials. I have over 1,600 videos on Dan's Tutorials, and I have about over 30 years of publishing experience, most of that magazine, with the internet coming up actually with a very close second. I also am a former Apple genius, worked at an Apple store for 3 years, helping people on a daily basis from troubleshooting and to helping them learn more about their Macs and their apps and all that. So through all that, I have 30 plus years experience on the Mac, and I still love the Mac. I'm going to mute everyone, and then if you have a question, you just have to unmute yourself. So get that. Before I forget, mute all. All right. So you can unmute yourself if you have a question. And then I also help out at a local school, Tech Sport. They're all Apple. And, there's work with 2 other people that I did work with at Apple. So there's 3 people that I work with. Next week it'll be down to 2. So that's a little bit of a bummer that one of them's leaving for a different job. But that's... We'll get through that, and that's a little bit about me. So that's not what you came for. Let's get started and start talking about some of these accessibility options and what you can do to make your computer or things easier to read, easier to use, that type of thing. We're first going to focus on the Mac. We'll take a look at a couple of Mac things here. The first one here is you can change the cursor size and color on the Mac. Now this is new in Mac OS Monterey, the part of changing the color, the size. Oh, we got an echo there, don't we?
The first one here is you can...
Is that me? Hold on here a second. Okay, hopefully that will, let's keep that open. Okay, so the first one here, we can change the cursor and size and color of the Mac. And one of these has been around for a while. The other one is new in Mac OS Monterey. Now everything that I'm going to be demonstrating on here is going to be the latest software. So I'm using Mac OS Monterey and iPad OS 15 and iOS 15. But some of these, if you're using older versions of your operating system, some of these are going to be available, yeah. And I'll try to point those out as I go through them. So the cursor size, you're going to see that on my Mac here. Ignore the blue ring. That's actually, I'm just going to turn that off so you can actually see what's going to go on here. I don't want you to confuse that. This actually, I thought about this just before the seminar here, the class here. I thought about creating a slide on this Cursor Pro. This is a great little tool. So remind me at the end of the class, if we have time, I'll kind of show you what this Cursor Pro is. This Cursor Pro allows me to draw the ring, and now I can easily see where my cursor is, and when I hold the function key, I can zoom in. That's basically, it's just an app, but I can talk a little bit more about that later on. But for now, what I'm going to do is just disable it, because I don't want you to get confused with what is the Mac doing and what is Cursor Pro doing. So you can still see my mouse there. It's going to be a little bit smaller, but hopefully what we'll be able to do is make that easier to find again. So what we need to do on the Mac is we need to go up to our Apple menu and we need to go to System Preferences. And then we go to Accessibility. Now, depending on which Mac OS you have, this accessibility here may be in a different spot. It's going to be in System Preferences, but Apple has kind of changed how these System Preferences are arranged, so you might have to find it in a different spot. I personally would love it if they went alphabetical, which you can do by going up here, but I like to keep everything normal. So, accessibility. And this is where we have a number of different accessibility options. And they are categorized here. And you can see that there's quite a few of them. The ones that we're going to be looking at are zoom and display. Let's first look at display. This is where we can change the cursor size and things like that. You're going to see up in the upper part here, we have these different tabs. And the pointer one basically allows us to change the pointer size. So when I drag this over to the right, you're going to see that that cursor is getting larger. So now I'm able to see where that cursor is. It's always going to be large like that. So what you can do is just find the right size that you want. I'm going to leave it large so you can easily see it here. The other thing that you can do, and this is new in macOS Monterey, is you can change the color of it. You could always change the outline. If we look at this cursor, you're going to see it's black, and then it has a white outline on it. So it's two different colors there, white and black. What we can do is we can change the outline color, the white part, and then we can also change the fill color. That's what's new. So when I click on the white here, what I'm able to do is change that to a different color. We can see it's green. And what we can do is change the pointer color. So let's go with orange. So now we can see we got a nice obnoxious cursor. So if you have a hard time seeing it, these are some of the things that you can do. You can go and change that color. Another thing that this was introduced, I believe, with Catalina, maybe Big Sur. If you shake the mouse, or the cursor in my case, I have a trackpad. If you shake it, what it'll do is it'll get large. And I use this on a regular basis as well. So you're going to see the shake mouse pointer to locate. I think the big thing here, what I'm trying to, at least in my mind, what I do is I lose the cursor quite a bit. So then all of a sudden, especially when you have dual monitors, where is that cursor? And you have to move the mouse and look for that movement, and then all of a sudden you'll see it. And watch what happens when I shake the cursor fast. Well, I got to make it smaller here. So when I shake the cursor fast, hopefully you'll see it. You'll see it gets large, and then it gets small again. So a lot of times what I will do, because I do keep my cursor small like this, if I need to find that cursor, all I do is just shake, go with my finger really quick on the trackpad, or if you have a mouse, you just move it back and forth really quick. Oh, there it is, and then you stop and it shrinks back down. So it's a nice way of finding the finding your cursor. But also you can just go and change the color. I'm going to reset these so they're the standard color here. So that's one thing that you can do, is change those colors of the cursor and trackpad, as well as change the size of them. The next thing we're going to look at is, and this is on the Mac as well, we can zoom into the Mac with a keyboard shortcut. Now this is a trick that we used at Apple quite a bit. What we would want to do is zoom in. I'm going to bring my pointer size back down, and we're going to go to my Cursor Pro here so now you can easily see it. But basically, let's say you wanted to zoom into the Mac, and how we would use this at the Apple stores, let's say we had to get the serial number. And this is actually when my eyes were a lot better than what they are now. This was 10 years ago. But still, sometimes it's hard to read this serial number here. So what do? it'd be nice to just zoom in on that. Well, if we go back over to our system preferences, and then we go to accessibility, and we go to zoom, you're going to see we have here a few different options. The one I'm going to show you here is use scroll gesture with modifier keys to zoom. So when I turn this on, what it's going to do is zoom in when I hold down the control key and swipe up with my cursor. So now I'm back at the serial number here. I need to zoom in. If I hold down the control key and then I swipe up, it zooms in. And then I swipe down, it zooms out. Let's look at this from a different camera here. So sorry about the glitchiness there, but I just hold down the control key. So I'm just holding down the control key. And when I swipe up, it's zooming in. Swipe back down, it zooms out. So what I'm able to do there is basically read anything that is small or pretty much anything. If I go to maps and, something was really small over here, I move my cursor over here. And then when I hold down the control key and zoom in, it zooms in where my cursor is. And then I zoom back out. So I can't read some of these streets here, even though I have readers. I zoom in, I zoom out. This is different from zoom. If I were to pinch to zoom, you're zooming into the map, which is what we're all familiar with. But those street numbers here are still small. They're, as I zoom in, that text size doesn't change. So that doesn't necessarily help. But when I hold down the control key and I swipe up, or if I had a mouse, I would just, use the cursor, hold down the control key. Now you're going to see everything zooms in. It's like I'm zooming in on that wherever my cursor is. And I can move around here. When I'm ready to zoom back out, I hold down the control key and I zoom back out. So again, with my other camera, hold down the control key, I zoom in, I can zoom around here. I'm just zooming around. Now I need to zoom back out, hold down the control key, and I swipe down. So that is, like I say, that is something that we used on a daily basis at the Apple Store when we needed to zoom in on something, read a serial number, or read anything. That zoom really, really helped us out to read some of that stuff. And that's, like say, in the accessibility under zoom. The next trick, I think this is the last one for the Mac that I came up with here. The next trick that we have is reducing the transparency on the Mac. Let me open up my chat, make sure. I'm going to try to monitor this as I do this. Okay. So the next one is transparency. When we are looking at my Mac here, you're going to see that it is transparent here behind the dock. Now, this can kind of make it a little bit difficult to read, but I think the bigger problem with this transparency is the menu bar. I do not like, maybe it's just because I'm old school, I love change, but sometimes, the changes, in this case, I'm not sure this was a good thing. The menu bar up here is the color of your background. So depending on what your background is, the color here is going to change. Well, also what it does is I think it makes things a little bit easier or a little bit harder to find when you go up to the menu bar. I just like that menu bar being a solid color. I also do like the back of the dock being a solid color. And when I open up a window here, whoops, let's open up a Finder window. We have some transparency here. You can see it's changing here just a little bit. It's lighter here, and when I bring it over here to this corner, because this is a gradient, it's changing the color. So with all of that, the problem with that is it also reduces the contrast, which makes it harder to read. That's a whole, I like to have, a little more predictable color there. So what we can do is go back over to our system preferences. And if we go over to accessibility again, what we have here is under display, reduce transparency. Now we do have some other options here, and if you want to play around with these, I recommend taking a look at what some of these can do. Some of them are more extreme, increased contrast. That's a little bit more extreme. That's a little bit too extreme for me. We can actually, I mean, it almost looks like Mac OS 9. Hard lines in there. You know, the softness is gone. I don't like that. But what we can do is go to reduce transparency here. And when I do that, watch the menu bar and watch the dock. I'm going to turn this on. We can see that the menu bar is now easily distinguishable. I can't put a window up there anyway, so why should it be the same color as the background? And the dock is, you know, the transparency is gone on the dock. Also, when I do that, you're going to see that, let's look at this accessibility up here. Pretty good contrast there. I can easily read that. But when we go and reduce transparency, because that is slightly transparent, it does change to the color of the background. When I turn this on, we can see there's more contrast there. But it's still soft. It's not real hard. Same thing with a Finder window. So when I go, remember how when I drug this around, the background here was kind of changing color, especially if you have a busy background that can really change color depending on where it's at. Well, now if we look, it's all the same color. There's no transparency in this sidebar. When I go back over to my reduced transparency, now they're the color, you know, it takes on the color of the background. So I usually will leave this on as well. And in fact, most of my lessons I leave this on because I think the transparency is good. When I need to highlight something in the menu bar, I can go up here and, you know, it's the menu bar is nice and gray. Where I go back over to accessibility here. When we go to the menu bar, we can see it's taken on the color. Kind of hard to read that gray text. Can't do anything with it anyway because it's not selectable. That's why it's gray. But when I go and reduce the transparency, it does make it a little bit easier to read. So I really like that reduced transparency. But again, there are other options here. You can you can change the menu bar size. Maybe you want to have the menu bar a little bit larger. It doesn't make a big difference, but it makes a big enough difference for a lot of people. So when I go here to large, you can see it didn't make too much of a difference. It might be because I'm using a different resolution. But like I said, what you may want to do is just go through here and take a look at these. If you don't like it, you can just go and turn it back off. That's the beauty of a lot of these accessibilities. You go to zoom here. You can use keyboard shortcuts to zoom in and out. I prefer to use the control key. That's why I use the scroll gesture. You know, what is the zoom style? Full screen. I would not go picture in. This one gets a little confusing when I do this. We can see it goes picture in picture. I don't like that one. I just like it to be full screen. But you can, you know, choose how that, you know, basically play around with it and see what works for you. A lot of different options there, but those are some of my favorites for the Mac. Does anyone have any questions on, before I go to the iPad and iPhone? The iPad and iPhone actually have a few more, so I'm going to focus on them a little bit more. Does anyone have any questions on the Mac or iPad, or I'm sorry, the Mac accessibility?
Yeah, what's the show window title icons for? The one you got checked? Second from the bottom?
So under Zoom?
Yeah, this display. No, display.
Oh, yep. Which one?
That one right there.
The show toolbar button shapes?
No. Show window title icon.
Oh, that. I think what Apple, okay, so this is, I loved this one. I wouldn't necessarily consider this an accessibility kind of thing, but I don't know if Apple knew where to put it. They got a lot of pushback when they removed this. So what did they remove and what does this put back? Well, I'm going to turn this off.
Okay.
Yep, it's off by default. So when you open up a window here, you're going to see, let's go over to my downloads. I have my downloads up here. Well, when you move your cursor over top of it, it puts that little icon there. But when I move my cursor away, we can see it disappears. So now I move it up, it shows. I move it away. So in past versions of Mac OS, I think Catalina and past, that folder always was shown. And the reason why I like that folder to be shown is what I can do is take this folder here and you can drag it and move it around, or you can control click on it and get other, there's the folders there. You can get you see what it's nested in. I just like having that folder there. So what this does is just show that icon there. And now when I have that on, we can see that that is always shown. I can move my cursor away and it's still up there.
Oh, okay, all right, good.
So that's how the Macs used to be. They took it away, they got a little pushback, and they added it back in with macOS Monterey. Not sure if it's an accessibility, but I'm not sure if they knew where to put it, or but anyway, that's what it is. So, yep. So if you're using an older version of macOS, you don't have anything to worry about. You still got the good old days with that thing there. So, all right. Let's see what we have for our next accessibility option. And then we're going to switch over to the iPad and iPhone here. Let's, all right. I went too far. We're going to talk about changing the default text size on the iPad and iPhone. Now, this is pretty common. Most people know about this. But I wanted to start out with this because there's another option after this where you can change it on a per app basis. And really what you want to do is you want to add this option. What I recommend people doing is adding this option to your control center. So then you can easily change the text size from the control center. And the way that you do that, otherwise what you have to do is you have to go to your settings app to change the text size. Well, sometimes I have my readers and sometimes I don't. So where's my Mac and iPad here? Let's see here. Ding, ding, ding. Mac, earphone. There we go. Okay. So what you'll have by default, what you have to do to change the text size, I'll pick on the iPad right now, is what you have to do is you have to go to your settings app, and then you would go to accessibility, or you could go to I believe it's display and brightness, and you're going to see text size here, and I can drag this up and down and but there's a lot of steps there to do that. If we look at the sidebar over here, when I drag this to the left, it gets smaller. And when I drag it to the right, it gets larger. And this is a global setting. So I change this here. It's going to change it for all of my apps, which is perfect. And in most cases, that's perfect. But I don't want to have to go into settings and go into display and brightness to do that every time. If we go to my iPhone, you're going to see it's the same kind of thing. I go to display and brightness, and I go to text size, and there it is. What we can do is we can add the text size to the control center. So that's one of the reasons why I started out with this one, because I highly recommend doing this. Basically, you can add a lot of stuff to the control center. Then all you have to do is just go to the control center to change your text size. Makes it much easier. You don't even have to leave an app. You just go to your control center, change its text size, then go back to your app. And the way that we do that is we go back over to our settings app here, and you're going to see one of the settings is for the control center. Under the control center, we have these included controls. So these are all the controls here that are in my control center. So when I swipe down from the upper right-hand corner here, here's my control center. these are all the buttons that I have installed right down here at the bottom. So you're going to see I have camera here, and when I go back over to my control center, there's the camera. So if I wanted to remove the camera, I could just tap on the minus here and it'll remove the camera. And now when I go back over to my control center, it's no longer there. So we can customize our control center. Well, one of the things that we can add to it, you're going to see down here, we have more controls. One of the things that we can add is text size. Where did it go? Ding, ding. Where is it? Maybe we can't add that on the iPad. We're going to go to the we're going to go to my iPhone here. Control Center, included controls, and you're going to see I do have text size on my iPhone here. Apparently, I did not realize we didn't have that on the iPad. So we're going to focus on the iPhone right now. Sorry about the confusion. And your Mac will go to sleep. All right, we're going to have an emergency here. Apparently my Mac is not being charged. So when I go and tap on text size, tap on the green plus, what it does is it adds text size to my control center. So now when I swipe down, I have a new control here, and it's the double A's. So now if I need to change the text size, I can just tap on this and drag it up and down where I want. Now it's going to be really small. If I have my readers, everything's really small. I no longer have my readers. Swipe down, go to text size, drag it up, and there we can see everything easily again. So adding that, yeah.
I do see it on my iPad.
You do see it on the iPad? Oh, it's already in there. Sorry. Okay. Oops, I should have looked there. You're going to see that I already have it installed. So, okay, now we know how to install it. We got that. So same thing with the iPad. I go to my control center here. You're going to see text size, and I'm able to just change the text size. And this particular part is global. So when I go and change this all the way down here, it affects every app. We can see that is small, and if I were to go to my Files app, all the text is small there. Any app that uses dynamic text, and that is a key point, they do have to, a developer has to use dynamic text for that to work. So any app that uses dynamic text it will automatically change it when I do that. That is a global setting on both the iPad and the iPhone. Every app is affected by that. So,
Excuse me, Dan,
yeah,
you can have it for only one particular app. I
That's-
opened it for-
that's my, you're jumping ahead of me. That is my next trick. Thank you, though.
Sorry.
So, but let me, I'm going to disappear here quickly because my computer told me that it's not plugged in, so I must have unplugged it accidentally. Give me 2 minutes here. Talk amongst yourself.
Anybody else experience a real lag in his video and voice?
Yes, Jerry, we have.
Yeah,
Occasionally.
occasionally, yeah, it's not constant.
That's kind of intermittent.
Yeah.
While we're talking among ourselves, this is Ann McKay. I run the
Hi, Ann.
Apple user group in Catonsville, Maryland, and I'm thinking of doing a program on the Apple Watch, which has been requested. Does anybody have any ideas how I could display the watch without it on my wrist, without it turning off, since I don't have the latest model?
And,
Yeah,
I saw Tony Crawford do a presentation recently on the Apple Watch, and then Bruce Mitchell on Apple, on health apps. And, he talked about something, so you might wanna contact Tony. Do you have his, email address?
no, I don't.
Okay, he's from the Villages group. Well, I don't know, I think I have yours because of, World University, I can get it off of that.
Right.
Okay, I'll send you Tony's, email address then, to that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It worked really well when you showed it.
Is there any way to put that in the chat? Because I would really love to do that as well. I teach a seniors group at Fairleigh Dickinson, New Jersey.
Well, I'm not sure what it was. It was an app that he had.
I do have the app Reflection, and I believe that Dan uses that also.
I would love to know what that app is, because that's my biggest problem with the Apple Watch is not being able to demo it.
Okay, I'm gonna multitask while you're talking, Dan, and I'll see if I
Okay,
can-
I'm still trying to. I'm down to 3% battery, 2%. So
Oh,
if I get disconnected, I will be back. I'm scrambling here.
Yeah, crawl under your desk, Dan.
Yeah, we're talking among ourselves.
Oh, I already crawled under the desk. 2%.
Be careful.
Maybe a separate power supply.
Dan, I think I found it.
All right, and I think it's down to 1%, and it looks, hopefully, looks like it's charging or holding a charge at least. I don't know why my charger's not working. Okay, yeah, I would catch my breath here. I would love to know, how to do that on the Apple Watch, kind of thing, because I do have a tutorial on the Apple Watch. It's getting a little bit old, and I'd love to redo it, but it's a lot of work, because you got, it'd just be nice. So, if anybody, if you find out what that is, please pass it on.
Okay, I put it in the chat, Dan.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Okay, so text size. Still catching my breath. And thank you for being patient. So with the, as someone mentioned, what we can also do is change the text size on a per app basis. This was introduced in iOS 15 and iPad OS 15. So I'm going to go back over to, well, here, let me change my slide. So I know where I'm at this is how I create the chapters. I just look for my slides when I'm in Final Cut Pro here. There we go. Changing the text size for specific apps on the iPad. So if you're watching this and you went through the chapter, just go back about 30 seconds or so. So we're going to go over to my iPad and iPhone. And basically it works the same way. What you have to do is you have to add that control over to, I wonder if that's why my computer seems to be running a little bit slow, which I heard you talking about the lagging and all that, because it's been running off of battery power. I wonder if that is contributing to the issues. But anyway, iPad, iPhone. Okay. Yeah, we're good. You can see the iPad and the iPhone, correct? We're good? Okay. So basically what we need to do is go back over to that control center. So on the iPad, if I swipe down from the upper right-hand corner, we have my two A's here. And what we're able to do, down at the very bottom here, you're going to see I have here Files Only and All Apps. The reason why it says Files Only is because I'm in the Files app. So if I wanted to change the text size for a specific app, probably a big one would be Messages. You need to have this a little bit larger. So what you can do is when I'm in the Messages app now and I go to my control center and we go to change the text size, you're going to see it says Messages Only. So now when I slide that over. We can see that it is blue there. Now what it's going to do is change the text size only for the Messages app. If I go back over to my Files app, you can see it's smaller again. So it changes it only for that specific app. I'm going to change it back. That's a little bit extreme there. And then if you want to reset it to where it's just doing all apps, what you can do is you can just go back over to all apps. And now it just controls everything again. As you can imagine, the iPhone, it works the same way. Go to my control center, tap on the double A's, and down at the bottom, we can see it says settings only. That's because I'm in the settings app. If I was in the messages app, it would say messages only. So what you're able to do is just tap on it, change the text size for that particular app, and then if you want it back for all the apps, tap on it again, and it's for all the apps. So that's a way that you could individually change it. And actually, I was in a meeting. Somebody brought this to my attention. They use, I think it was Mail, maybe it was Spark, but it might have been Mail. And they wanted to have the messages in Mail get larger, so they could read it, but they didn't want to change anything else. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be a setting for that. Couldn't find it, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, someone's like, use the text size and change it for that app only, and it worked. Just one of those things like, oh, yeah. So that's how you can easily change the text size on a per app basis. Nice little trick there.
Okay, so if you set it for one app and you leave the app, does it keep it only for that app until you change it for that specific app?
Yep. You could change it. So if I'm in the iPhone here and I change, let's go and change this, to large, 310%. And now when I go, ooh, that's big. Let's go to my Messages app. We can see that's normal. And if I change the text size in this one to small, let's do a little test here. So Messages is really small. Settings app is really large. Now, if I want to change these back, what I have to do is go in here and say, I want this to be all apps, and I will have to do that to the Messages app because this is still really small. So you kind of have to go and say, I want this. So when you do this, you are changing it only for that. It doesn't affect any other apps. The other apps you can still change using this dynamic text. So maybe I should say it this way. What I could do is I could make my Messages app be 310% and all the other apps be 120%. Or all the other apps 150%. The Messages I can completely control outside of that. Or the Mail app I can completely control outside of that. So yes. And then if you don't want to, just bring it back to all apps. Mm-hmm. All right. What else do we got here? Yeah?
This is Bob Vol, not to jump out of it, but going back to the wrist detection question on the Apple Watch.
Oh, yes.
That's available on the watch itself. I've got a 6.
Yeah.
6 in the latest update, and you set it on the watch.
Okay. You can set it on the watch.
And I just tried it. You go to the apps on the watch, go to General, and there's a pass code, I think it is. Pass code under General.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the items there, like you, I've got the wrong glasses on.
General, yep. The settings there. Settings and then General.
Settings and then passcode.
Mm-hmm.
And under passcode,
Yep.
third bottom, wrist detection.
Wrist locks your watch when you're not wearing it so your information stays secure. If you're using a passcode. Oh, that's how you can turn it off for the right. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yes.
And the only reason I know that, I got my wife a new Apple Watch and I was setting stuff up. Well, I've got a small band for her. I can't get the watch on, so
Yeah.
saw that somewhere, and it's right on the watch.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, that's if you want to do that.
Right. Well, it would be good for my it'd be good for my recordings. That's because then I don't have to enter in that passcode.
That's what I mean. 'Cause
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you do this, the watch never goes blank.
Right. The big thing that I want for the Apple, thank you for that. The big thing I want for the Apple Watch is be able to mirror it, so then you can just see it really easily, like you can see with the iPad and the iPhone here. But maybe Watch OS 8 or whatever's coming out in the next few months. Anyway, let's get back to our presentation here. Keynote. You got to do this old school here because I just got to, okay. And the next one is using the magnifier. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things, and one that I use probably more often, and I should even use it more often than not. And basically what it is, a lot of people will get this confused with taking a photograph. What you can do with the magnifier is basically use the camera to take a picture of a menu or some text or whatever that is really small, and then you can magnify into it. Just like with the camera, you can do that same thing. But what the magnifier does on the iPhone, this is an iPhone only thing, what the magnifier does is it will optimize the text so it's readable. So it's not, like a photo, what they do is they use algorithms to make that photo the most vibrant or whatever, that kind of thing. Well, with the magnifier, it kind of makes it more for reading. You can easily make things black and white. Also, it doesn't add it to the photos library. I don't want to have my photos library full of these old menus that I can't read to remind me that my eyes are going bad, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like its own separate thing. So I have this menu here. Let's there we go. So I have this menu here, takeout menu. And as you can see, the text is pretty small. So basically what I do with this, I'm just going to go to my iPhone here. Basically what I can do, come on, there we go, is open up an app in here. It's called the Magnifier. So this used to be in the accessibility, and you used to have to use double tap or different things. You could get to it by tapping 3 times on the home button. There are different tricks to get it. Well, what I'm really happy Apple did is they actually made it an app that stands on its own. And if we look here, you're going to see I have Magnifier there. If you can't find it, you can just search for it. Just search for Magnifier. So what does it do? Well, when I open this up, basically, it opens up the camera, and you can already see it's black and white. I mean, we're looking at a black and white screen here. And essentially, all I have to do is just hold my phone over it, as you can imagine, just like any other, just like I'm using the camera. And then I tap on the circle, the 2 circles there, like the shutter button, and it takes a photo. But when I zoom in here, being that it takes the color out, remember this is orange here. You can see the contrast is much better there. So it optimizes whatever you're taking a photo of for reading. And again, this will not be in my Photos app, so it doesn't clutter up. You're already probably taking, tons of photos. The last thing you need to have is, like I said earlier, things that remind you that you can't read stuff anymore. So essentially what you're able to do now with this magnifier, I can zoom in or I can use pinch to zoom. I can adjust the contrast. I'm just going to go through some of these sliders here. We have a contrast here, or brightness, I'm sorry. We can apply filters to it. And with the filters, if it's the color, like this one is orange. Now this photos or the magnifier did a pretty good job with it, but you can apply different color filters to hopefully read the text a little bit better. Again, the whole goal is to read the text. And you lock the focus, things like that. We can also, let's see here, there's the contrast. And here's the filters. So I can apply different filters to make it a little bit easier. Maybe I want it, you know, black on white on black there kind of thing. But also what you can do is you can take multiple photos. Let's put this back to normal there. Make sure we'll go with that. Grayscale. That's how I usually have it set, is for grayscale. So it strips out all the color. But another thing you can do with it, let's say the menu is multi-paged. This one is not. But you know, sometimes they'll have it on the back, or you'll open it up and or they have those big menus where they're 3-panel or anything, you know, stuff like that. Well, if we look at this app here, you're going to see to the right of the shutter, let me see if I can show it here. The right of the shutter, you have the two buttons in the lower right-hand corner, the two squares that are on top of each other. What this does is this allows you to take multiple photos. So what I can do is I can tap on that, and now, let's say there was, I have another one here. I can't read this. I take it. This one does have something on the back. I tap the shutter button again. So now I've just taken two photos. You're going to see it says View 2. So I just tap on that. There's the first one. I swipe. There's the second one. I zoom in. If I wanted, being that these are color images, I want to view that in color, I can do that. All I have to do is just go over to my filter and say no filter. And now I can view them in color here. I can still read the text. So this is how I, in all honesty, this is how I read a lot of menus. I use this quite a bit when I go to menus, especially for some of you know, I like to have my beer. And I typically will stick, I drink craft beer a lot of times, and I will typically stick with the lower alcohol content, like the 4%ers. I'm not big on the IPAs and all that kind of stuff. So the way that I choose beer, sorry if anyone is a beer connoisseur, the way that I choose beer is I just go like 4%, and then I will whittle it down between, I like that one there because I don't do it I do it by alcohol content. Just it leaves me less headaches and that kind of stuff. So anyway, this is how I will view what the percentage of the alcohol is, because a lot of times the name of the beer will be bold, and then you get to see the brewery, but then the percentage of alcohol, in Michigan they have to put the percentage of alcohol in there. That's usually a little bit smaller. So now what I'm able to do is just go in here and go through that list and easily see what the percentage of alcohol is for some of the beers that I like. Like I like Belgian style, so I look for 4%ers in the Belgian style or something like that. When you are done and you want to go to the next restaurant, all you have to do is just go back. It's, I can take another photo here. I know it's upside down, and now it's ready for the next photo. I tap on the X, it's ready for the next photo. It doesn't keep a memory of all of the different things that you took a photo of. So these are temporary. So the Magnifier is a wonderful app, particularly, if you wear readers or, can't read small print, that kind of thing. I've had to use it when I need to look up the serial number on the back of an iPad or something like that. It reduces the contrast. So instead of using my camera app, I will use the Magnifier app, and it will just go through, and it does a really good job. And it's been around for a while, but now they made it front and center by adding it to your home screen by default. You used to be able to do it through the settings app, and you could add it to the home screen, but now I believe it's there by default. So it's a great tool.
Dan?
Yep.
Dan, it's also available, you can put it in your control center.
Oh, yes, you can. That's why I say look at those control center. You can customize it quite a bit. And yes, you can easily put it in the control center too. So then you have it easily accessible. Great tip. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Was there another question? I see in the chat.
No, I was just saying the same. Couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. while I go to the next slide here, somebody asks, is this going to be available later? Yes, I do record all these, and it will be available later on my site. I usually have it up in the next day, so it'll be up tomorrow. That's the plan.
When you turn on that Magnifier app, what happens? How do you toggle it off?
You just go to another app. It's just
Okay.
at that point it's just an app. So you just go to when you're done,
Okay.
go back to your Safari or Chat or whatever, that kind of thing. So, all right. What is next here? All right, using LED flash alerts on the iPhone. Personally, I am not a huge fan of this, but I get it. I have friends that do it. And I get why, because they could we go out for dinner or whatever. And, typically what you'll do when you are at a restaurant is, we all have our phones out at this day and age. And what you do is you put the phone upside down like this. I think that's what most people do. So then it's just not sitting up, face up. They put it just down like that. And when you do that, you're not going to be able to hear if there's an alert if you have your volume down or sometimes it vibrate. Anyway, what you can do is turn that flash. That's the flash that the camera uses. You can have that just tick, tick, blink, just to catch your attention that you have a notification. So it makes it pretty easy to see. You could have your phone. Let's say you work at home or something like that, and your phone's over in another area, pretty close to you yet, but in another area, so you're not going to hear it. You're certainly not going to feel it vibrate. So what you may want to do is turn on LED flash. So then all of a sudden, even out of your peripheral vision, what you would be able to do is see that you have a notification. And this is pretty simple to do. It's been around on the iPhone for a while. Let's see here, where is my iPhone me? And basically what we need to do is go to our settings app. And what I do, because they move all these settings around, and I'm not a huge fan of sometimes where they put these settings. Another thing I don't like, and I actually heard someone say this on a different webinar that I was on, I wish they would put these alphabetically. They're not alphabetical. So it's hard to find stuff is the point. Well, if we go up to the very top, you can search. So what I'm going to search for is LED. And you're going to see we have LED flash for alerts. So now all I need to do is just tap on this, and it takes me over to that area in the settings app. So now I don't necessarily have to worry where it is. I can just search for it, and it shows me where it's at. So down at the very bottom, we have LED flash for alerts. All I have to do is just turn that on. It's a global setting. When I turn that on, if I get a notification, it's going to flash. Pretty simple. I'm not sure if they have. I don't think they have. What would be really cool is if they added that to the control center. We're going to look here. Nope, I don't see it there. It'd be really cool if they added that to the control center. So then when, because you may want to use it sometimes, but let's say you're in a theater or something like that, you certainly don't want to, have the flash go off, at that time. So got to be a little careful with that. So that's the LED flash. A nice little trick. My brother uses it, and my good friend Marilyn uses it. It just seems to be a common thing with a few of my friends that they use it. So I thought I'd pass that one on.
Dan?
Yeah?
I just wanted to mention that it is extremely helpful for my mother, who is mostly deaf.
Oh, good point. Excellent point. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, that's the whole thing with this accessibility. It's if you don't, I'm going deaf from loud music kind of thing, and but I don't need to have that yet. So you don't see some of these things you don't see, or you might see a different reason why you need them, where other people have a different reason for using them. That's the whole beauty with these accessibility options. There's a lot of things you can do, and Apple is really on the forefront of adding these. Every iOS, every Mac OS version, they add more and more accessibility options, which is really, really cool. And some of them, you might not think that you would need them, but they do make life a little bit easier. And that's their whole point, make life a little bit easier. At least in my case, I think that's what they're good for. Okay, so the next thing here
One
is...
for hearing aids is great, by the way.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes.
I using LED.
Is that Otacon?
No, mine are Signia.
Oh, okay.
They're military supplied, but that particular app. I'm able to use my hearing aids with that app on my phone. So control.
I have Autocon and it works very well for the app.
Great.
I have it too, but sometimes my hearing aids don't always sit real well in my ears. And a lot of times if I'm listening to podcasts or doing other stuff, I'll just use the AirPods, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not... I also try, when you got your side pieces of your glasses, sometimes they can impact
they would, yeah.
the hearing aid too.
I eventually will get... go ahead.
And I have Widex, and when my audiologist told me to turn off the lock clicks and the keyboard clicks to make sure that it didn't interfere with the hearing aid. So I have to keep those sounds off, but I don't know if anybody else does.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which was that? The lock clicks and what else?
Lock clicks and the keyboard clicks. You know, when you go into sounds and haptics and you see at the bottom, it has
Where it clicks with your when you're typing.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what my audiologist recommended. I also sometimes have trouble with the fact that my hearing aids, often I need to repair them. In other words, repair them with my phone.
Oh, right.
Because otherwise what happens is the sound goes all the way up. Anyway.
Also, if you get a mold instead of using the little bell, the molds work, they'll improve your hearing by about 25%.
Great tips. Thank you. Eventually, I'm going to need them. My audiologist has told me years ago that I'm going to need hearing aids, so I'm sure I'm at that point. I just haven't done it yet. So this next thing we're going to look at is back tap. Some of you have probably heard this. With the back tap, and this is an iPhone specific setting as well, what we can do is we can use the back of the iPhone and tap on it to get specific features. So the one that I use on it is Zoom. On my personal iPhone, I use this exact thing, what I'm going to show you. So let's go over to my iPhone here, and I'm first going to show you how we turn it on and how I use it for Zoom, and then I'll demonstrate how it actually works. So let's go to my iPhone here. All right. So first thing we need to do is, first thing we need to do is we need to turn on back tap. And again, it's in your accessibility, but I think it's buried in a couple of different areas within accessibility. So what I again like to do is search, and it's called back tap, but it's basically touch. So when I tap on touch here, at the very bottom we have back tap. So now when I tap on this, what I can do is I can have it do certain things depending on how many times I tap it. So if I tap the back of my phone here, and when I say tap, I'm going to show on the camera here, when I tap twice, because that's a double tap, the camera is going to open. So I'm just going to do that. 1, 2. It's going to make a liar out of me. 1, 2. Oh, great. Double tap. Let's try this again. Camera, control center. There it goes. So I had to reset it. Okay, so I just changed it to control center. That's easy enough as it is. So I could be sitting here with my phone. It might be the way that I'm holding it too. If I double tap on it, 1, 2, there's my control center. I did not do anything on the front of the phone. All I did was just double tap on it. So let's do that one more time. So I'm going to double tap, 1, 2, and it goes to the control center. If I tap on it 3 times, it goes into zoom. So what zoom allows me to do, if again, I don't have my readers, it allows me to zoom into specific areas on the iPhone. So what I'm going to do is tap 3 times on the back of my iPhone. Let's go to news here, and we're going to take a look at this article here. Let's go and make the text a little bit smaller here. Okay, so that didn't work. Anyway, let's say I wanted to just zoom in on an area here on my iPhone. Doesn't matter what I'm at. This is doesn't matter. This is not an app-specific feature. Zoom. What I do is I tap on the back of it 3 times. So that's what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3. Zoom enabled. And now I must not have it set right. Okay. We're gonna go.
I think it's just because you don't have the zoom ratio set up yet.
Is that what it is? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So you're familiar with it, Steve. You know this stuff too. Oh, I got to do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, how do I set the ratio?
Well, the shortcut to do it.
It might be because you're going to see down at the very bottom, I have this little guy here. Usually what I have is a mouse connected to my iPhone, and I can control that with my mouse. I just didn't do that this time because I don't use it that often. So that little guy might be interfering with it. But here we are. We'll start over. We'll take a look at zoom here as well. So I'm going to search for zoom. Display zoom is what we want. So it takes me to the display zoom here. And you see, oops, that's not it. Zoom, accessibility. So display zoom, if you have an iPhone Max, what you can do is you can make everything a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller. That's completely separate from this. We want accessibility zoom. I'm going to turn it on. And now you're going to see down here this little, that's what I was looking for. So it was enabled but not turned on. Weird. Well, you can enable it but not turn it on. So what this allows me to do, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now it's working. So basically I'm looking at this phone here, and we have this small type up under here. Zoom magnifies the entire screen. Double tap 3 fingers to zoom, tap 3. I'm not going to be able to read that without these guys here. And I don't always carry these guys with me. So what you can do is enable that 3 tap, or I tap on the back of this 3 times, and watch what happens. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I get that little window, and now what I need to do is you're going to see there's a little bar at the very bottom of that window. I'll bring it down here towards the bottom. That little white bar, that allows me to drag this and place this where I want. So now look at that. I can read that really easy. Move it around. I'm done reading that. 1, 2, 3 on the back. And it'll disappear.
Did you drag that little white bar on the bottom with your finger?
Yes, I did. So I'll go to my overview camera here. Let's see, face cam. And you're not going to be able to see the phone here because I don't have that screen set up right. But now I'm going to tap 3 times on the back. We can see that it is indeed there. And now I just take this at the very bottom here, and I can go and move that around. It's almost like it's a little magnifying glass. If you saw, 1, 2, 3. If you saw on my iPad, if you've ever noticed how I zoom in on the iPad, let's go to my iPad here. Let's say I wanted to highlight, these icons down here. The way that I do that is I use a keyboard shortcut, but what does that keyboard shortcut do? Takes me to that zoom. So there's that. You're going to see the little white bar at the very bottom. So that's how I zoom in on the iPad to show everyone what, I need to zoom in on a specific area. Let's go into the Settings app. And, we're going to talk about display and brightness. I can zoom in on it. I'm just using a keyboard shortcut to do that. So if I were to go back over to my face cam, move this camera here. I'm just using a keyboard shortcut. So when I use those two keys, my iPad, you can see it there in the corner. That's all I'm doing. And now I can easily zoom in. On the iPhone, when you use that back tap, that's what you just tap on it 3 times, and then it will zoom in. So I just 1, 2, 3. I tried it. It's got to be the way that I'm holding it because it works really pretty good. And then I just drag it around, and when I'm done, 1, 2, 3. It's got to be. Yeah. Okay, so it's not perfect.
Dan, can you use that if your camera is in a case?
No, it is not in a case, but the back tap works good without it. I am one of the few out of all my family and friends. I think my brother doesn't have a case either, but most of my wife doesn't, ironically. But everybody else uses a case, and the back to tap does work really good even with a case. So you shouldn't have a problem. You might have to tap on it a little bit harder, but it's not real. You can just think, once you get good with it. I think I'm holding it at a weird angle and things like that. But when I'm on my regular phone, I just basically hold it. This is how I hold it, and now I just need to 1, 2, 3, and it will zoom in.
I use this feature heavily and a lot on iPad and iPhone, but I don't use the back tap.
Mm-hmm.
I use it directly on the screen surface. So
How do you enable it then? Like I'm using the back tap to enable it.
It would be a 3-finger tap on the edge of the screen.
Yep.
And here's the key, though. On the bottom that you're showing the iPhone is that maximum zoom level. You want to make sure you get that right because that's how far you're zooming in.
Right. Well, that's pretty far. So I'm going to double tap with 3 fingers like what Steve is talking about. Oops. Or we got to turn it on? Oh, duh, I had it off. So I'll go with my overview camera here again so you can see it. And essentially, the zoom is on. So now all I have to do is just take 3 fingers, double tap, and when I go back over to my iPhone, we can see it is zoomed in. So that's how Steve does it. And I can drag this around. I want to get rid of it. I take those same 3 fingers, double tap, and it disappears. So that is another way of doing it. You don't have to use a back tap. You can just double tap with 3. It shows, double tap, it goes away. So yeah, thank you, Steve. That's a great way of doing it.
Oh, you're welcome. The other key thing is the zoom region, because I don't use the window as much as I use full screen zoom in. But it's just a matter of taste.
Right.
For me, I can, especially on the iPad, I can 3-finger tap on a specific region or corner of the iPad, and that's where it's going to center zoom in, no matter what.
So yeah, I'll go with what Steve's talking about. Is remember how I talked about how you can zoom in on the Mac, and I said it zooms into the whole screen. You saw how it zoomed into the whole screen. That's what Steve is talking about here. If I have it set for window zoom, so now when I double tap with 3 fingers, instead of getting that little window that I can scroll around, that's what I like. But it's a matter of preference. Try out both of them. I'm going to double tap with 3 fingers. Oops. I didn't go, Steve. Do I have to go back?
Sometimes it's a quirky thing. Sometimes I've had to change it and then go back and switch back to it. It's I don't know if it's a little bit of a bug or what, but
There it goes.
sometimes it doesn't take on the first switch. But
Yeah, it was back on window. I don't know, maybe I didn't do something right there. So, okay, so now I have it on full screen. So everyone, I have it on full screen. Now I'm going to double tap with 3 fingers, 1, 2, and we can see the whole thing zoomed in. And now I just take my finger to scroll around, and I double tap with 3 fingers. The reason, now this might work great on the iPad. I'm going to go back over to my iPad. The reason why I don't like that on the iPhone, and this is me, I've had it to where I pull my phone out of my pocket and all of a sudden it's zoomed in. I don't know. I don't know how it's happening, but it's just zoomed in, and the back one seems to be a little bit more for me.
So instead of a butt phone,
right?
Butt zoom.
So we'll go and search for zoom here, and I'm going to go to accessibility, not the other one. And we're going to go and change this to full screen. This is how Steve has it set. And now, if I double tap with 3 fingers on here, 1, 2, the whole thing zooms in. And like what Steve was talking about, depends on where I'm going to double tap. If I double tap in the lower left-hand corner, it zooms into the lower left-hand corner. I can drag this around. I just take my 3 fingers and drag it around, and then I double tap with 3 fingers. The key is 3 fingers. And now if I go in the upper right-hand corner, it's going to zoom in the upper right-hand corner. I double tap with 3 fingers again. Oops. And I'm kind of fumbling around here, so don't let that frustrate you. I'm at odd angles here with my devices, which kind of, when Apple designs these 3 taps or the double tap on the back and all that, I'm at weird angles here. So don't get frustrated because you're seeing things messed up here. I'd say absolutely give this a try, and give it a try for a few days to see if it works. And if you don't like, you can always turn it off. But truly, like Steve was saying, just all you have to do is just 2 fingers and you can zoom in. 2 fingers, I'm zoomed out. So if you're reading an article or anything like that, and if you don't want to have that the full screen, you just go into your Zoom and try window. Double tap, and I have the window. And that's how I like it. But it's just a matter of taste. That's why Apple puts them in there. People like different ways of doing it. Double tap, it goes away. This pinned zoom, what this will do is this will pin it. So I double tap with 3 fingers. And we can see it pins it up at the top. I do not like this one, but I'm sure there's a reason, for it. It's just not for me. So I double tap with 3 fingers again, it goes away. So I'm going to go back over to windowed zoom, and it's all set. You can even show controls. There's a zoom controller here. If I turn this on, now you can see down here I have a zoom controller. And when I tap on that, I can go and resize the lens. I can hide the control. I can zoom in. So with this, 1, 2, there it is. I go, you're going to see it's not zoomed in or out or anything like that. What I'm able to do, zoom in, there it is. And I can resize the lens. This allows me, there it is. I can zoom in and out, resize the lens. So you can make it however you want just by showing that little controller there. I'm going to hide the controller again. So a lot of little options there with Zoom, and which is really cool because you can adjust it how it works for you. But you just have to play around with it a little bit and not get frustrated, because it does. If you can master it, which I think most everyone can, it takes a little bit to get used to. But boy, is it ever nice when you can't read something. You just zoom in, double tap, or double tap with 3 fingers, and you're zoomed in. So it's a great way to easily read something that you can't. So.
Hey, real quick, Dan, just
Yeah.
because I play with this one so much, you're spot on when it comes to saying, you got to explore with it, play with it, get it so you're using the tool the way that you prefer to use it and
Right.
how it fits you best. One little shortcut is that, let's say you didn't want it at 5 times zoomed in, but you wanted it at 10 times. Without having to go back into preferences or into the controls, there is a gesture where you just 3-finger tap and spread your fingers, and it will zoom out all in one gesture.
Right. Yep.
And whatever you let up on at that magnification, it'll stay at that magnification.
Yeah. So basically, like what Steve's talking about, and then spread them out like that, and it'll.
Right.
What I would say which is great, but you don't want to. What I've learned is sometimes you can overwhelm yourself, and then all of a sudden you're doing too much, and then it's just like, I can't be bothered with this, and then you don't use it. So I would go in steps. Just try Zoom for a while. Once you get comfortable with it, then go. Use the 3-finger tap like what Steve was using. Then once you get comfortable with it, go to the next step and say, okay, I got this down pat. Now I'm going to 3-finger, to zoom in and zoom out, kind of thing. Don't try to do it all at once, because otherwise you are going to be frustrated.
Well, the other thing is knowing how to turn it off.
Yeah, 3-finger tap, turn it off.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm slapping myself on the wrist right now for even mentioning that last one. Sorry.
No, that's all right. It's good. It's good. It's just there's a lot of options. Just be careful. Go slow.
I was just realizing that my problem using the zoom feature with the 3-finger double tap is I was keeping my fingers straight and one finger is shorter than the other, and I realize now I can bend those and I can do it much easier. So I think I'll start using Zoom again.
Yeah, awesome. All right, our last one here is, this is new in iOS 15. You can have your iPhone or iPad, OS 15, you can have your iPhone or iPad use sound recognition, and then it'll alert you when it hears something, such as a siren, a smoke detector, carbon monoxide, because they all have their distinct sounds. A dog barking, if you have a pet at home, you could, have it alert you that it's just hearing these noises. So we're going to look at this on, let's just go to my iPad and iPhone here. Ding, 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 iPad, where is it? iPad, iPhone. All right, so on the iPad, what I would recommend doing is just typing in here in the search sound recognition. Embrace the search because things get buried. Sound recognition here. So this is located in accessibility under sound recognition. So essentially, what you have to do is you have to turn it on, and then you choose what sound you want it to listen for. So when I go and tap on this, you can see we have all these different sounds. Now, this does use a little bit more battery because it's constantly, well, I guess Siri does too a little bit, but anyway, you have your fire, your siren, your smoke, you have your different animals, appliances, car horn, doorbell. Maybe you can't hear the doorbell and your iPad is over in some area. It could alert you, or your phone might hear it where you can't. Anything like that. Glass breaking, water running. I need this. In all honesty, I need this. We have a water purifier. It is so slow to fill up a pitcher of water. So sometimes I'll walk away, and Beth does it too, my wife. Our standing joke is we'll go there an hour later and we're like, did you want me to turn that off? Completely sarcastic. We both do it. But this thing would tell us, if I had a phone nearby or an iPad nearby, it would be able to tell me like, hey, water's running. All I have to do is just go here and turn it on and then set what the alert tone is, and then it would let me know. You can do the same thing on the iPhone. Again, settings. As you can imagine, it's very similar. I would go and search, sound recognition, and turn it on. Turn on sound recognition. Which sounds? Just turn on the sounds. Set the alert so you can have different alerts for different sounds, and that's pretty much all there is to using sound recognition. But it could be something, from the fire, siren, smoke detectors, anything like that. Although smoke detectors are pretty annoying as they are. So that's how you can use sound recognition to help you recognize different sounds and things like that. I believe that is the last one. That is the last one. So that's...
They don't have that sound recognition for microwave Zoom beeps.
Yes, I would need that.
I have the two microwaves, and my husband, he turns it on, and then he leaves the kitchen. While I'm in the kitchen, he beep, beep, beeping.
I need it for, we have, I call it a glorified toaster oven, but we have an air fryer, a Emerald air fryer, and I absolutely love it. As a kid, we had toaster ovens, so this is just a bigger version of it, and I love it. But I can't ever hear it beep because my hearing's, it's just not that great. My wife, her hearing is top notch, and when we had that flat tire, she was in the passenger seat. My flat tire was the driver's side rear tire, so about as far away as you can get from her. Guess what she heard? She heard that tire hissing. That's how bad the leak was. I mean, it was within minutes that it went flat. She heard that whoosh in the car. I'm like, God, I wish I had that kind of hearing. But, she has great hearing. So I never hear the beep from that toaster oven. Sorry, not toaster oven, air fryer. But I never hear the beep in that. So sometimes the food might sit in there for 5 minutes.
Under household, you could check appliances. Would that cover like a timer or a beep?
Let's find out. Turn on sound, Rick. I have no idea. I don't know what that means. But I'm going to try this on my personal phone. I'm going to turn it on and just see what it does. So yeah, definitely something to try. Got nothing to lose by trying it. So, all right. So that ends my my things on accessibility. My some of my favorite things for accessibility. I hope you got something out of it. Next, I will have the recording up tomorrow with the chapter markers and all that good stuff. And next week, I'm going to be doing my typical AMA. So you can register for that. And I have been working on a tutorial for shortcuts finally. So I've been recording those. So I'm thinking maybe if it's not my next class, it might be the one following. I'm going to do one on shortcuts. I'm finally starting to embrace and figure out how shortcuts work. And I'll go with if you want to start playing around with shortcuts, and I talk about this in my tutorial, and I'll talk about it in the class. I bring it up because we just had a conversation about it talking with Steve. You can go very deep in shortcuts, and it can do a lot. It is true. You can program stuff for the most part. If this, that, and show a dialog box and do this and transfer this data from this, and and it can be like done, kind of thing. But it also can be very simple, very simple. What got me going on it was somebody asked about when their phone connects up to their car via Bluetooth, the music starts playing. And this is an Apple thing. As soon as it connects up to a car, the music will play. Well, what you can do is you can create a shortcut with two actions. When my phone connects up to Bluetooth, pause media. And that's it. You just walk up to your car, it connects up, says, oh, this is your car? I'm going to pause the media. And that's all there is to it. It's all automated. You don't have to hit a button. So shortcuts can also be very easy to use. So, if you played around with it, keep it simple, kind of like the accessibility kind of stuff. Start out slow, and then you can go from there. That's what I'm kind of doing. But anyway, I'm working on that. I hope to have some of the lessons up starting next week as I'm winding down with Keynote. And also I'm going to hopefully start working on a tutorial for FaceTime as well. So looking at some of the stuff for FaceTime. That's kind of what I got going on. Other than that, thank you for attending and for your support. If you're not a member, it'd be awesome if you could sign up and help support it. I am a one-man operation. I mean, eventually I'd like to get my wife involved in this, but, it takes money to do that. But it is a one-man operation. And if you know anybody that thinks that they could be benefit, if you're part of a group, if you think that your group could, benefit from this, let them know. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's basically people like you that keep this going. So thank you. All right, I'm going to stop recording here. And let's see if I can figure out how to do that.
Thank you, Dan. Once again, a pleasure.
Sure, no problem. I know Tom was talking. You were talking about shortcuts a while ago, Tom. I'm finally doing it. So.
Thank you.
Well,
Hopefully
thanks for the encouragement about just taking it a little bit at a time. Don't
That's
push yourself into 100%.
it is really how I do it personally. I mean, because otherwise you get overwhelmed. You tackle too much. It's a little bit of a slower pace, but for me, it's just how it makes it much easier when you do. It's like anything with teaching. They always start you with the basics. They don't start you out with the complicated stuff first. They might demo what you can do with it, but they're not going to show you how it works. You got to get the basics down first, and then you can go from there. So.
See you Monday at 6.
All righty. Yes, Monday at 6. I saw that email. Excellent.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes. Happy Easter, everyone.
You too.
Take care.
Thanks.
Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you.